Whenever you're ready.
I mean, it's his best fucking movie.
All right.
Go.
No, I like Wild at Heart better.
Mulholland Drive is still my favorite, but this film is extremely good.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
it is. Yes, that's him.
It does register on the Hopper
Uh,
meter.
oh yeah, was this up the top or what?
This is the most
Oh,
Dennis
there we go.
Hopper.
What? There they are.
There
Yep.
they are.
This is the most Dennis
2.68.
And
Dennis
hoppers.
Hopper
Oh my
movie.
gosh.
This is, in fact, 10 out of 5 hoppers.
Wow, that's a lot of hoppers. That's good stuff.
This is maximum hopper.
Maximum Hopper,
Maximum
yes.
fucking Hopper.
The
Yeah.
only other movie that gets a 10 out of 5 hoppers is Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. And maybe that one he did that was a
And he was sober for this one.
Well,
Yeah. Well, this was
But
who knows if
fried.
there was amyl nitrate in that or not.
Right, right.
well, as much as Chris is talking about that Eraserhead set up David Lynch's entire style, this film actually informed his style in a greater degree in that
Yeah,
because
all the other movies were like,
his narrative impulse was somewhat uncontrolled. Maybe Dino De Laurentiis has kind of like put his thumb on him or something like that, but he had to tell a coherent story. And there
right.
is, if you take the weirdness out, it's a straight film noir.
It's
It's
a
like
weird Douglas Sirk film noir.
yeah, it is. There's like, but the blonde-haired girl's innocence and this guy's penetration into the world, the underworld, and seeing stuff like that.
The
There's very
mother and the
much a
whore.
personal journey going on in the middle of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's more ordinary, it's more doctrinaire than you'd think it would be. But the details of this film are just indescribable. Just starting with the ear, just the setting, Lumberton at the sound of the falling tree. It's nine
it doesn't
o'clock
it doesn't start with the ear, it starts with going underground.
to all the
It
bugs.
starts with
Yeah,
the bugs under
yeah,
the lawn.
and that wonderful
A
montage
heart
of
attack.
firemen and things
Yeah.
like that. That's
I
great
think it's
stuff.
supposed to be a stroke.
Mhm.
Right. I mean,
And the dog with the water.
That was
I mean,
fun.
that.
That was fun.
this is a theme he would come to again and again and again. Like I said, I've watched like probably half his filmography, where I'm going to take a fairly like an old timey movie,
Mhm.
and I'm going to lynchify it.
Well,
Right.
this is just R-rated Twin Peaks. Like
Pretty,
Mhm.
yeah, sure.
It's pretty much the same sort of
But
Mostly for language, might I add.
the thing, I mean, like what I wrote down, what I wrote, at one point I wrote down 80s hipster litmus test.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And it because we all ran out and saw it opening weekend. I mean, I know I did at Lumiere.
I did.
And I walked out of that thing
do you,
vibrating.
do you want me
Yeah,
to remind you
like,
how old? Do you want me to remind you how old I am?
Yes,
Well, I know it came
yes.
out for your born, so it's like.
Well,
but,
but it's it's just like, okay, this movie is speaking.
No, you were like 2 or
to
3,
us.
weren't you?
Right.
so like I said, I told you I saw this at the Paramount in Hollywood, across from the Chinese theater, right?
Oh, I know where that is.
I was staying at my friend. It's the El Capitan now, but I was staying in a friend's house in Van Nuys, and I said I want to see the David Lynch film, the Blue Velvet, and everyone's like, no, no, no. I had to go by myself
Right.
because no one wanted to see it. This happened a couple years later. I want to see Showgirls at the. I know it was playing over at the Chinese. No one wanted to go.
But remember that this was his clawback after Dune.
Yeah, that's right.
I
Right.
also
This
saw
is his
opening night.
response to Dune.
Yeah, well,
actually.
like he makes Eraserhead, then he goes and makes Elephant Man, which is a fucking masterpiece. And I would have picked it if it had been streaming someplace, but it isn't. And then he shits the bed with Dune, which I can find. I'll watch and I'll laugh at, but I mean, it's
Which is also produced by De Laurentiis.
Right, exactly.
The same as this.
got a lot of
This was distributed by De Laurentiis.
right.
Right.
Like
I wonder. This is going back to what Tad said about the earlier film. I wonder how much, because Dune, that was such a big production that the producer's thumb was on him. Maybe that's what caused this to be kind of a.
Music by Toto.
I know it was kind of a dumb film in a lot of respects, but this one is like the thumbs up a little, thumbs off a little bit, so he got to express himself.
the thumbs off, but there's still a thumb.
There's still a thumb. Yes.
There's
It was a
still
good balance.
there's still
It's a good
someone
balance.
That's
saying
why I think this is the best one.
Yeah.
right. There's still somebody saying like, all right, dial it back. You got to cast some
Just a little
decently. You got to cast some decently well-known actors in this. You gotta You have to hit your
Make it
dailies.
look pretty, you know,
Right.
and also be a
Yeah.
hipster kind of thing going on the side there.
You
Was
can have
John
your
Hurt
weird
unknown?
you can have your weird like no, I'm just saying for this movie specifically.
Yeah.
Like you can have your weird like 30-45 second bits here and
There's
there.
Yeah.
plenty of those.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but it has to be a coherent film that somebody can sit down and watch and say, I know what happened from A to B to C.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
That development, denouement, basically.
I think it's absolutely the right balance of
Yeah.
those two things.
Because
movie.
I think that he
wholeheartedly
was able to
agree.
concentrate his weirdness into Hopper. Because Hopper was the one place where you could just go
Well,
Lynch out.
not just in Hopper, he can also smear it all over the background. And I
Yes.
think it's so interesting how much of when because I haven't watched this for several years, and I watched a lot of this time and looking at like he uses super deep focus in a lot of shots, and so you can see all this weird fucking shit going on in the background,
Mhm.
Yep.
and it's like, oh, it's when Hopper says this is it, and then you just see this is it
Yes.
on the like that's fucking weird Lynch shit, but
Mhm.
it's hidden just on the side of the frame.
Yeah.
And it's like
Rewards repeat viewings.
Yeah.
right.
This was, and you can get the horn out for this, Tad, if you want to. He was using a lot of
Horns all the way over
the
there.
Panavision Primo 40 for this. Go back to that slow club scene, if you can pick that one up, Chris. See the curvature in that?
Yeah, it's
You saw
super-
that in Chinatown all over the place. And every interior of this film, it bends away. He's using that super wide Panavision with the
Yep.
deep focus.
Yep.
And
Although
that thing,
although that
there too.
particular
Yeah.
that particular one that Chris just had, his eye line is up a little bit, so it's bending down.
Yeah, yeah.
In a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah,
of them, it's bending
See
more back.
the curb is bending down.
Usually
Right.
in some of his interior shots, you get 2 vanishing points, which is
Right.
great.
It's doing that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff inside the cop shop that was like, it's weird because it's wide so you can bring everybody in, but it's also distancing because it's bending away from you a little bit. It's a little the lines aren't straight in this film.
Well, and the
It's
only
like-
time in this movie that you really get intimate with the characters is in the scene behind you.
Yes.
There's the two scenes with the two of them, this
Yes.
one and then, but that's not intimate. They're still like that
Still
is
fizzling each other out a little bit.
Yeah, that's pushing them apart with the table.
Mhm.
Like there's that part
How about this
with
one?
the song.
Uh-huh.
No, because they're looking back at you.
Mhm.
Like and then there's the part with the two of them in the kitchen where he gives them the money and he
Yeah.
gives them the receipt, he gives them the tape, and then he pops the pill in his
Pill in his
mouth.
Yeah.
Says
And then
candy.
the only other time it really does that is when he kisses Jeffrey.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
there is that intimacy in that where it's like you really get this feeling that like Ben is who he wants to be with.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
and he can't really handle that,
Mhm.
and that's what causes him to
Does that
do
wince and act weird during the song?
well, and I mean he starts crying.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And but what's causing him to sort of act out everywhere is he can't really be himself, you know?
This is good
Like
stuff. This is good stuff, man.
like you
I don't
huff
disagree.
you
Yeah.
huff amyl nitrate so you can have more physical pleasure during sex. So what's he doing? He's huffing it before he rapes her.
Yeah, it's like a tank of it. He's like,
Right. Because he has to show his dominance as a man in this situation.
Mhm.
But what he really wants is he wants to kiss Ben.
right. Maybe.
Like
That's a good interpretation. And let me add something to that because you talked about how Frank Booth stands in his scenes. In that archway where we hear in Dreams, he's just standing there. And a bunch of scenes with Frank Booth in this film, he's standing loose. There's nothing between him and the other characters. He's kind of he comes in, he's like, "Where's my bourbon?" You know, kind of thing. He's
He's
just
not
standing.
even the biggest guy in the room.
He's not, but he's always in the middle, kind of undefined. And it's stuff going around him.
well, the it's not the final scene, but the climax of the film when he comes into the apartment,
Hmm.
he's just walking around in the middle distance
Hmm.
for most of it. And then
Yeah.
he walks up to the biggest guy in the room and shoots him again, and
Right.
then goes back to try to find and kill um
I'm
Kyle
McLaughlin.
MacLachlan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he's unrooted as a as a physical presence in the film.
But
He just wanders around the proscenium or the
at the
image all the
time
time.
that this came out, had there ever been a scarier, more unpredictable bad guy in a movie like this? I don't think so.
Night of the Hunter.
yeah,
Yeah.
a movie I've considered picking multiple times.
Oh,
That's Steiger, right?
And that's Charles Lawton's only
and that's
directorial.
Robert
Mitchum.
I mean, I was
Mitchum,
half
yeah.
The
joking,
okay, but the difference is that the Robert Mitchum character in that he has a goal, and he's working the goal, and he's weird because he's religious and he's like a half preacher and he's got the tattoos and like that. So he's a little odd, but he's always focused on what he wants. You don't know what the fuck's going on with Frank Booth. It
I
has to
don't
be,
think Frank really wants anything.
yeah,
You want
it has to
no,
be,
I think he does, and the thing he wants is power.
yeah.
Yeah.
It gets explained to us at the end what he wanted. It's like, but the rest of the time he's just acting bizarre.
But in the original 4 hour cut of this, you get more.
Did you say
of
there was a
that,
4 hour
too.
cut of this
there
film?
is a 4 hour cut
There-
floating around somewhere.
That's the craziest thing I've heard all day.
It's never been. There's no release of it, but if you get the Blu-ray version of this from 2011, there's a bunch of cut scenes because it turns out Lynch still had the film from it.
Oh,
So they actually put a bunch of the cut scenes. McLaughlin's more of a goody two shoes in that one. So his fall in the middle is a little bit harder. And Booth, it's much more obviously stated that like Don was Booth's partner and he tries to get out, and that's what causes
so you get a little more detail about that, but could be they take a criminal cabal, basically.
right. And
Yeah.
and Dorothy threatens to commit suicide.
Oh man, that's something.
and
Uh-huh.
and
Because she was like
Basic-
her character was half checked out this entire movie. Yeah.
he's holding the Don and Donnie hostage to
Right.
keep her from committing suicide. It's not he's
Wow.
not trying to get anything out of them except to have access to her.
That's right.
Like
Uh-huh.
and that's
I think he says it in at least the short version, "Stay alive" or whatever he says on the way
yeah,
out.
he does say stay alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wow. Okay.
So
The
his
clarity.
character wants power over people, and then punishes them when he doesn't have power over them.
Sounds really familiar.
Because obviously he's not really violent except for the one little like pop to the face to
In fact, it was
Jeffrey.
demonstrative. Remember, he's got him out there and says,
It's all
"Muscles,
just
feel my
yeah.
muscles," and then he starts doing the thing because he wanted to show him in like almost theatrical way that he could dominate him.
Well,
It's
but
just
then
meta.
Jeffrey, but when Jeffrey punches him in the car, that's when he's like, "Oh well, now I have to demonstrate my power."
That's right.
Like
Mhm.
that's everything with him is about power.
Yeah.
The thing
I
about
buy
this
that.
movie that's so fascinating to me, though, is it's the scene behind Scott and it's the scene behind me, which is there is some cheesy ass shit in this movie, which is the bird shit,
The mechanical bird at the end.
bird, which apparently and you know that Jeffrey, like, why are there such evil people in this, like like, good Christ Almighty, you actually made your actors deliver that line.
You
And
made
it
your
should
actor
work.
you made your actor voice the problem of evil in your
Right.
movie.
It
Right.
shouldn't work.
Yeah.
It kind of does, though, because it's in an absence of this scene, the scene behind Scott doesn't work.
Right.
In
Yeah,
an
yeah.
absence of this shit, it's just a bad Douglas Sirk ripoff.
Yeah. It's very much a darkness and light kind of film. You know?
And
Yes.
that's, again, like, and that's the thing that I think Lynch then tried to keep doing for most of the remainder of his career. Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, definitely Last Highway,
Inland
huge
Empire.
chunks of Mulholland Drive. I actually haven't gotten to Inland Empire yet. I am going to,
Okay.
but
Twin Peaks Returns
that was
also
like
very.
I'm gonna like it's I'm gonna make this horrible, nasty, violent thing full of sex and weird shit, but it's directed by Jimmy Stewart, and
Right.
that was Lynch's shtick. Is this like this guy that everybody seemed to like? No one had a bad thing to say about. He was like this weird goofball who made these weird ass violent movies that we all love.
Right.
That on one for every decade they turn into like some kind of hipster litmus test.
Uh-huh.
Well,
But
this is
combo
him also.
worked.
This is also him assembling all the people he's going to work with for the rest of
Uh,
his career.
True.
Like
uh,
he's
And marry one of
bringing.
them, right?
They never got
And
married.
they
I
just
don't
live
think.
together.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
those Hollywood decadent kids.
He made 3 movies with Laura Dern. He
Well,
made
like her mother.
many with
Uh-huh.
Kyle. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think for me, and I do love Wild at Heart, and again, that's another one that wasn't available for streaming. Like I think my first choice was I was gonna like pick Elephant Man and Wild at Heart, but they're not available, so I picked these other two. And I'm glad I did because at the end of the day, I think they're my favorite. But like I think Wild at Heart is really unfocused. It's funny, but I think like Cage knows he's in a David Lynch movie.
Right.
And Cage knows he's in a David Lynch movie post this movie, so
Right.
it's
Right.
really cranked up.
Oh yeah. So just go.
Where, with the exception of the guy behind me, everybody else in this movie is almost playing it straight.
Yes.
Kind of makes it work better. Whereas
Even like Jack
when you
Nance,
get
he's
to
just this
Wild at
kind
Heart,
of.
Dern is at 11, Cage is at 15, Willem Dafoe is at like 20,
Uh-huh.
and it's just like everything.
I don't know. The other guys in his group are also at like 11, 12,
Like
13.
Brad Dourif and like Jack Nance and
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
know.
Yeah.
I don't. Is Nance capable of anything above a 4?
Oh, come on.
He has he has a very
That-
strange sense of menace in this. He's short.
both of those scenes in the car,
His
they are
mustache.
they, I mean, they
The
might as
girl
well
dancing on the hood.
That's fun.
they might as well
That's
just
Lynch.
they might as well just be the Joker gang from Batman Beyond.
True.
Like,
Well, they're also like the hyenas in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. They giggle a bunch.
Yeah, they do.
Especially Dourif.
Or
and
it's like
other
or it's
guy.
like Biff's
Lion-
Back to the
Lion
Future.
Biff's
King.
people, yeah.
and there's actually two of those in this movie because there's also Matt's buddies when they're chasing chasing them, they're doing the same shit. So
Yeah.
it's like Matt's the next Frank.
Right.
Yeah.
He will be in a
Well,
while.
he's a Frank in training.
Yeah.
Right. He's going to be Frank now that Frank's gone.
Right.
Like, and he's already got his Lion King hyenas hanging out
Yeah.
next to him.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, it's a weird because at a point, the whole thing with Matt is an overworld underworld thing. Like overworld threats, it's like, oh, you're smooching the girlfriend of the star of the quarterback of the football team. You're gonna get your butt kicked in a very traditional high school way. But meanwhile, he's delving down below where it's a guy singing into a drop.
right. And
light
now that there's a vacuum in the underworld, it's gonna pull Matt down
he will.
into
He's
it.
he's doomed basically.
Mhm.
He's a small town bully is going to turn into Frank Booth if he especially doesn't lay off the amyl nitrate.
I just this was a big at the time that this came out, and looking at it in retrospect, this was a great big boulder with a really wide ripple.
Yeah.
We talked about the careers that this launched or relaunched. Hopper, fucking Roy Orbison. I mean, Pabst Blue Ribbon. Pabst Blue Ribbon went from the beer nobody orders in a bar to the beer everybody orders in the
To the
bar.
beer that if you
Almost
play
overnight.
also if you play a gig in a lot of bars around here, that's the free beer you get backstage.
Right. I mean, it's just, you know,
It's
for
not
him-
the best of the cheap beers, but it's up there.
it's right.
It does the
But it
job.
didn't matter. Like it was suddenly everybody was ordering it. Everybody was showing up with
Heineken,
it.
fuck
party.
that shit. The funny thing is, it's a side story.
If
but
I
my
didn't think Heineken tasted like absolute piss, I actually would have bought some on the way home today.
when I was a kid, I used to go. My dad owned a bar in Santa Cruz, and I used to go buy 6 packs of Heineken from him because I
Yeah.
couldn't stand all the American beers except for Lowenbrow Dark, which is really good. And he used to like. I
I
had
don't
that
think they
look.
make
He'd
anymore.
give me this 6 pack, and I pay $5 for it, whatever. And he had that look like, son, I don't know where you're headed in life if you like that beer. I have no idea. So I can understand the whole
I have a-
not liking Heineken thing.
I have a question. How old's Laura Dern in this movie?
Not very
18.
old.
In as a character or as an actor?
And as a character.
I
No.
think she's
She's
supposed
high
to
school
be
age.
She's
She's like
still in high
17 or
school.
18.
Is she?
I think she's supposed to be 17.
It doesn't look like a college or even a community
I think
college.
they're both. I think it's my impression was that she's 17 and he's 18.
He's out of school. He's in
He's
college.
just
Well,
graduated, right?
he's
Because
apparently
he's going to college.
Yeah.
the semester is still going on for him
Okay, so then
because
it's 17 and 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has to take a
So
break
they-
to go take care of his dad.
He's a
so-
senior.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
first year college.
Right.
So my question then is, how did they get alcohol in that weird roadhouse they were in?
No idea.
They
They didn't
just
talk about
did.
that.
It's just they have that whole conversation about Heineken, and she's like, "I've never had a Heineken before," and that's when I was like, "Oh yeah, you're probably underage,
There's
huh?"
no way she's.
Wait, is he underage?
She's
Well,
a
when,
senior.
They
when
were
did it all go
both
to, actually, you know
underage,
what?
yeah.
When did it all go to 21? It was like after the Vietnam War, right? I thought there's still
Well,
18 states.
Hold on, though. Hold on, because I mean, when I was
Because
living in
they are in
Colorado in
North
1980, like
Carolina.
3-2 beer was a real thing in many Midwest states.
Right, right.
This is in
You
the Midwest.
were-
It's
you
North
were eight-
Carolina.
I think if you were
This
18,
is in North Carolina. I thought it took place in Portland.
if you were
almost.
if you were 18, you could get 3-2 beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the Saturday Night Fever. The John Travolta was drinking in bars, and his character's supposed to be 19 years old. That's
Right.
before they moved it to 21.
Yeah, well,
New York was the last state, right?
so New York, New York has a highway that goes into Connecticut,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of colleges right over the border in Connecticut.
Oh,
And they would
okay.
call that the highway of death because all of these college kids from Connecticut would go to New York to drink
Mhm.
and then get into DUI accidents on the way back.
That
to-
sounds about right. hmm Yep. All right. Well, golly, where are we at?
I don't well, no, Jim, you had stuff to say about this in the chat.
Yeah, Jim, you
about
have a
when
corner.
first saw
Take
it.
the.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, my last year as a grad student at Mills College, Laura Mulvey, who's a feminist film theorist, English, I think, and also was a filmmaker with Peter Wolin, whom she was married to.
Wow.
She came with scenes from Blue Velvet to show as part of it. Ended up in a book she wrote later. So she was just sort of practicing with her material. She's a neo-Freudian, and she has, I'll send some links to some stuff online. Anyway, she showed these. I ended up talking to her because I was the only one there interested in film afterwards, and as we drank cheap wine and had little cheese on toast kinds of things. And yeah, she's got the whole thing as like a big Oedipal complex, and she brings in all kinds of stuff to it. But
This
it
is
was
being a kind of
interesting.
Freudian film.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing I remember her showing is Laura Dern coming out of the shadows
Oh, yeah.
when she meets Jeffrey there. I don't know if it's
That's a
the
good
first
shot.
time or yeah. And I think the flowing curtains too.
Yeah.
Lynch does have a way of shooting things that are just sort of ordinary, everyday objects that lends them an air of menace. And I think
Yes.
that's what's happening with Jack Vance's character too.
Right.
He's not really menacing, but he just seems menacing.
Yeah.
The way
There's a
sort
lot of that
shot.
in Mulholland Drive. There's like a phone in the wall or a lamp.
Yeah.
Was red. The little
Yeah.
weird props that actually had a pretty heavy freighted meaning in those. And so he did that kind of thing over and over again,
Yeah.
Well,
I can see that.
the
That's
scene
interesting.
behind you, Stockwell was supposed to be holding a microphone, and
What happened?
he was helping out on set holding a construction light for somebody,
Yeah.
and Lynch walked out onto set and was like, "Oh, you're holding that in the singing scene."
In the scene. Yeah.
I mean, fuck,
It's great.
It was genius because you
It
saw
was.
the preview clip. Snap, he turns it on and starts singing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was just everything was just perfectly set up for this. Shame.
Well,
it
it's
didn't
funny,
get-
and it's funny now.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
Microphones have lights in them.
That's right,
Yeah,
they do.
yeah.
Dean Stockwell's 5 minutes in this movie with the way his eyes will kind of like open and close.
Oh yeah.
Frank talks.
Wait. Here's to your fuck, Frank.
I mean, this is the guy that was in how many fucking Disney movies?
And Quantum Leap.
I mean,
Yeah, but it's funny because he's almost this character in Quantum Leap sometimes.
Sometimes I'll give you that.
Like he's definitely playing a little more into this side of him in Quantum Leap, where it's like he's a little insouciant. He's a little more interested in like
He's a
what
little strung out on heroin, is
Yeah,
what I came
something.
up with.
he's a, he's
he's
a little
he's,
he's a
imp
little
he's impish.
he's a little more
Impish,
interested
yeah.
in what Sam's getting up to with some of the locals when he's in
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
bodies.
yeah.
You
Okay.
know?
I walked out of the Lumiere on opening weekend going, I'm really excited if we can get to a place like this where I can kind of, yeah, there's a story that I'm tracking because it feels familiar, but I also have literally no fucking idea what's going to happen from scene
Yeah.
to scene.
True enough. Yeah,
It's
And then
Lynch is
Peaks.
deliberately trying to keep the audience off balance
Mhm.
every single scene.
That's right. Yeah,
Which he
That
really
was
comes to a head in Twin Peaks.
that's right.
See, it's
Yeah.
funny because I'm not off balance during this movie at all. I'm 100% locked
Well,
in.
but you've
Like
seen
I'm no,
I mean, I'm
even
talking
even
like
the first time, even the first time I watched it, I am like locked in on this movie when I watch it. Like it's
Oh, he's was it Jeffrey?
yeah,
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a relatable character. He's
Well,
like that's part of it.
And a bit of a perv.
And a perv. But the thing is, that's like all of us, though. We're all curious
Okay.
about things like this. That's why we have the show.
He gets off so fucking easy. She finds him in her goddamn closet, lets him live, and invites him back.
Yeah,
And then
I
fucks
think
him,
Laura
yes.
Dern was being more nice to him in terms of like after when Dorothy shows up naked in the front yard. It's like, oh my God.
yeah, but she doesn't show up naked in the front yard like I want to fuck you.
No,
No,
she's all
really,
fucked
like,
up.
it's
Yeah,
almost
but
like,
nonetheless,
oh,
it's like
God,
this whole
I can't even look at
underworld
this. It's
shows
so
up in the
uncomfortable.
overworld, and that's the
I
end.
think I think what probably happens with Laura Dern is she has that initial moment of like, oh, you hurt me, and then after he leaves to go to the hospital with her, she's a smart woman. She realizes, oh, this is an intensely fucked up situation.
Yes,
Like because that she is like when he's like, I love you, please forgive me, she can tell that he's being serious because obviously they hadn't slept together since he said he loved her.
right.
Like, so this is a thing. Initially, it's a thing where it's like, oh, you slept with this woman while we were courting, but then realizes, oh no, he actually loves me, but he has to deal with this fucked up thing over here that he's involved himself in. And like, I think that's
So she saw it as redemption, kind of like
right. I think that's actually one of Lynch's best, in my opinion, writings of a female character is she's extremely mature in this
Yeah.
movie.
yeah,
Very.
very much like
like-
Grace Kelly in Rear Window kind of thing.
Kind of.
Where she's real self-assured and kind of knows what she's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's very smart. She's very put together.
She sees
Like,
the big picture, maybe
And
more
Jeffrey
than
sees
Jeffrey
things in her
does.
that her boyfriend doesn't, which is great. And she sees that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. All right, my goodness.
I mean, 12 stars. Come on.
all right, this is it. Also,
Come
these
on.
all
on.
all these episodes are going to be like over a half an hour.
Well, but
10
I knew
hoppers,
it was gonna be
10
11,
hoppers
but-
up.
10 hoppers up. There we go.
This is a celebration
I'll have
of
him
a
hop
person
across the screen because
no longer
hoppers
with
should
us.
hop.